A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we have the 2.0 unboxing for you. We're going to take a look at the new starter so you know what to expect when you pick this bad boy up at Gen Con or here in September. The biggest changes to the old game from 2.0 that you can expect to see: size up the templates, the asteroids, go over all of the new basic rules that everybody's going to be kind of scratching their head about, because FFG's been great and they put out a lot of great content on it. But there's a lot more than what we've seen already on their site, and looking at these ships and looking at the actual rule book itself and going over the quick start. I'm really excited for this game, and I can't wait to learn more and get my conversion kits in and go over all that stuff too. So let's jump right into it and take a look at the starter. So now, first thing you're going to notice about this is, of course, it's the same size box. This goes for $39.95, and it's going to come with everything you need to continue to play X-Wing in the new 2.0 version. And it's really surprising how many of your game aids will still be viable in the new system and kind of how many won't. Once we get this bad boy open, it's pretty easy to see. It comes with about the same amount of stuff that the first starter did. You get a little catalog, you get the rulebook itself, a little ad for, hey, upgrade your squadron, get the conversion kits, or get the new stuff. And then it's going to come with all of the punch cards that's for these, in fact, that are going to allow you to play your games. The quick start rules, which we're going to go over for sure. You're going to get some dice, a lot more than this, actually. I compared them to the old dice. Your pilot stands, or your ship stands there. Your damage cards, your upgrade cards, which are a different size now. Your ships, and of course, the range rule, which hasn't changed a bit. And here's all of the components that are going to come in the box. Just to give you a better idea, you're going to get cards, upgrade cards, which are a new size. And we'll talk about all of these here in a second separately. The rule book. All of your pilot cards, your templates, all your new charge counters, force tokens, stress, all that stuff, new asteroids, new debris, new maneuver dials, all that stuff's going to come in here. Your quick start rules, your 2 new ships, and we're definitely going to compare them to the old ones. There are 3 new ships, 2 new types of ships, dice, templates, all of that. That is what comes in the box, $40, just like the first go around. Now let's look at all of these new things individually. So first up is gonna be all of the cards and maneuver dials for the stands here. Couple of different things. First off, these maneuver dials are actually different size. This is the old maneuver dial, this is the new maneuver dial. So they're about a 1/4 inch bigger all the way, well, I guess a 1/4 inch total, so about 1/8 of an inch each side bigger. There's going to be new maneuvers for each ship too. So if we take a look at this TF, I'm assuming it's TIE Fighter, so there it is right there. You're going to see that also blue is the new green. So you've got blue maneuvers, green no longer exists. I don't know why they did that specifically, but that's the way it is. And there's the X-Wing one right there. So it looks like there's a couple of blue banks at 2. It looks like it has a Talon roll now as well. And over here on the tie, a couple of different things too. Looks like some more blue maneuvers. Yep. Well, blue's right there. 3 forward. 3 was always forward. 4 got the... I'm actually not sure. It looks to be very similar on the TIE Fighter itself. But either way, new dials. Gonna need your new dials regardless. Can't use the old ones because they changed the color and they changed the size right there. You also might notice something right here on the card itself. There's 2 new things. There's a hash going all the way across here. That's for your barrel roll. You have to actually line it up differently now. You can't slide the barrel roll to the top or the bottom like you used to be able to. You have to line it up with the middle hash a little bit. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then also you may notice these. You've got your normal firing arc, which shouldn't be unfamiliar to anybody that's played X-Wing in the past. This is the actual line of sight that you can use for everything. Now, if you haven't seen the Army Painter, they actually have a little laser that really comes in handy. If you line up the laser from each corner, that gives you a really good line of sight arc on anything. Actually, let me go grab mine. Well, it would have been back sooner, but my cats heard me grabbing lasers and they wanted to play with the red dot. So we got to play with the red dot. Anyways, Here is this is the Army Painter Target Lock Laser. You should pick up one of these if you're super serious about getting into X-Wing, because it is amazing for drawing line of sight arcs right here. If you ever have a question, and this is as big as you pull your arm up perpendicular to the tabletop. So it can get pretty big as long as you have fresh batteries, and that'll give you a great line of sight. But now, and another reason to pick up one of these is this bullseye arc right here. And what the bullseye arc does is anything that's in this zone right here is going to give you a bonus depending on the card or something like that. I think Predator, we're going to show you, is a card that takes advantage of this. If there's something inside of that arc when you go to shoot, you may get a little bit of a bonus. So keep that in mind as well. Next card is going to be your templates, which I actually sized all of these up earlier and made sure that they are the exact same size, and they actually are, believe it or not. So all of these templates are the same size as the existing ones, so you don't have to worry about that. If you have custom space curves, you don't have to worry about replacing those. The asteroids are all the existing asteroids as well, so if you happen to have made special ones of those, well, you don't have to worry about that either. They are literally the existing ones, so I thought that was pretty neat. Then you've got your focus tokens, your shield tokens, your jersey numbers right here, your no fires, and when you flip these over, you're gonna have shield exhausted and shield remaining. So I guess they want you to keep these on your ships, and then when you lose them, you don't just chuck it, you actually flip them over to show it in the kind of, in a quick reference kind of style right there. More templates, which I'm not gonna show you, but these are exactly the same. Evade, critical effect, looks like some ion here, and stress. More target locks. Oh, the target locks are neat now too, because they have kind of the open and then they have the closed. So you put one on your ship and then one on their ship, and then you know kind of which one is which. I think there should be some of those. I may be misspeaking because there is only one set of those. So now I'm wondering how they work. Okay, well, we'll check it in a quick reference because I may have just quickly glanced over that part, or maybe do it. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. And here are, you got hyperspace tokens. More, this is your setup area right here. More shields. You got charges. Now charges are interesting because charges are how you activate certain things, and you've got force charges too, which both of these may or may not replenish depending on if they have the little up arrow, up caret icon on the ship and or the effect or something like that, which we'll kind of do a quick run through on things here in a second. And that's your coin for flipping. And I think that's the big stuff that's gonna be different, or at least stand out to you as far as the cards go. Now, as far as the cards go, the cards are all still about the same size as before. Let's take a look at the Academy Pilot and one upgrade card here. We've got the Predator card, which upgrades are not going to be the same size as they were before, but the pilot cards definitely are. And here you can see they're definitely a different format. You're going to have your actions over here on the right, and there's something called linked actions, which I could not find any examples of in the starter set, but apparently you can have linked actions where if you do this one thing on the left in white, then it can link into something on the right that actually, like if you perform, say, a barrel roll, you get an evade, or vice versa, or something like that, just as an example. You can see here that everything is pretty much similar as it was before right here. You've got 1 pilot skill, 2 attack, 3 evade, 3 shield points. Your shields here, remember, are completely separate, and you have to flip them up or flip them down based on if you have them remaining. And as far as Predator goes, well, when you perform a primary attack, if your defender is in your bullseye, remember what we just showed you there, you may re-roll 1 attack die, so that's pretty powerful. Whereas this was previously, when you are attacking, you may re-roll 1 attack die. If the defender's pilot skill is 2 or lower, you may instead re-roll up to 2 attack die. So it's a little bit more of a reward for flying better than just a kind of a blanket ability, so to speak, right there. So that's kind of some differences in the cards themselves. If you have these and you have a separate binder for your upgrades, the only thing we've seen so far that's going to fit that exact same sleeve or card is the damage tokens, or the damage cards, which we'll actually lay out here in a second for you. So there are most of the cards there. It looks to be a 24, 20, 31. That's weird. 33 card damage deck, which I think was the same number as before. So here they are, all laid out in the exact quantities you get, and also added to that, if you want to pause it, we're not really going to cover this, but I've figured it was a good idea to throw these in here. There's going to be 4 fuel leaks and everybody's favorite direct hit, which is going to suffer 1 damage, then repair this card. So not quite as massive as it was before, if I recall correctly, but maybe there's something overall that I don't quite know yet, not having actually played the game and just kind of looking through and basing it off of, you know, my games of previous edition. Obviously, leave your comments below on these damage cards real quick. Now, on to the ships themselves. Here is the new X-Wing, and this is the one with the S-foils that, of course, lock in attack position, just like we saw in the Saws Renegades with the classic T65 A New Hope paint scheme, which I find very refreshing. Of course, you know, the game was called X-Wing, but people didn't really play X-Wings for quite some time in the game, so hopefully that is the case here going forward. Now, compare it to, well, this is Big Z's. This is a Big's ship from the previous edition there, and you can tell while his S-foils don't lock in attack position, for the most part, it seems like a very, very familiar ship. Although it looks like the new one is a little bit more miniaturized, maybe not with as much paint detail there, but definitely I feel like they spent a little bit more time on the new one rather than the old one. Of course, it doesn't quite do all the transformations that this one does. And as far as the TIE Fighters go, well, compared to the original TIE Fighter, you can see that the one on the left looks very similar to the ones that were prepackaged later on, as opposed to the Academy Pilot, or the I think this was the 3rd expansion set they released way back in 2011 when X-Wing first came out. So the color's a little bit different, but overall pretty much the same ship all the way around, dimensions and everything like that. So no loss of detail. I would say that they definitely got a little bit more cooler paint schemes than anything really in this new starter. So real quick, let's run through the quick start rules. I'm just going to kind of go over the major changes as far as that goes. Now, there is an app that you use to build your list. I don't quite know about that yet. I don't quite know about how points work, to be quite honest. If you know already, obviously drop it in the comments below. Like I said, just focusing on this particular set right here and going through it, and that's all I have to go on. Although I'm sure there's a lot of posts out there already on FFG site with a bunch of previews, but I don't know anything about that quite yet. So, planning phase, very similar to what we saw before. You're just going to pick a maneuver, put it down, face down, and you're going to activate off of pilot skill like we saw in the past. The lowest initiative is the orange number right there, and then execute, you just kind of flip the thing, put your space curve right there, and you're good to go. Remember, if you've already kind of mapped out how these curves act with each other, relate to each other, you know, to whip around asteroids and stuff, then you're probably not going to have a hard time with that. I'm hoping I don't have a hard time with that because I'm a very visual type of person. As far as ranges and stuff go, it looks to be very similar to what we saw in the past. You start the engagement phase with the highest initiative, which we saw in the past. I guess they call it initiative, not pilot skill now. That's interesting to see as well. Attacks work the same, 3 to 2, etc., etc. You're gonna roll the dice based on, you know, your attacks and stuff. They're gonna negate. This is just your basic negation. Of course, there's, you know, a modified dice step and all that stuff in the main rules. Again, I can't speak to that quite yet. Then, you know, you lose shields or you lose hull points. Once you lose too many hull points, your ship's destroyed. Color of maneuvers, gonna grant you a stress token if you do a red maneuver. Nothing new there. Special maneuvers that kind of go over them, because remember, they didn't really start out with all 3 that there are out there right now in the basic set. So you're gonna have your K turn, your Talon roll, and what was the other thing? I guess Talon roll left and right. I feel like there was another maneuver out there, but I'm not quite remembering right off the top of my head. Overlapping ships, how that works, like busting back. It looks like if your ship, the template or the actual base overlaps an asteroid, you're gonna have to roll, and on a hit or a crit, you're gonna lose 1 shield, or it's going to take a face down damage. There's your debris cloud. Same thing, only a crit. It's going to lose its shield this time, or take a face up on a debris crowd. So debris isn't quite as bad as asteroids like we saw before, but now it works a little bit differently. Don't fly off the battlefield, everybody knows that. Focus is a little bit different. Actually, no, it's not. That's force. So focus is gonna work the same. You change all of your eyeball icons into either hits, depending on what you want to do, or evades, depending on what, when you're forced to roll the dice and all that stuff. Same with evades. Barrel roll, this is that thing I was talking about earlier that it changed. Ships perform a barrel roll, which moves the ship sideways. To barrel roll, place the one template on the left or the right side of the ship. Then pick up the ship and place it on the other side of the template, maintaining its facing. It cannot barrel roll if it would end up overlapping another ship. And they show you in this diagram right here, you have to lock in with that little hash mark. Actually, they don't really get into it right here. That's interesting. All right, well, we'll pull it up in the main rules and kind of talk about that here in a second. So the lock token, it just corresponds to your jersey number here, as I affectionately like to call them, technically your ID token. So everybody's going to need to have an ID token if you're trying to throw out a lock, so you know who's locked to a particular ship's ID token. Obstructions will look to work the same. And damage bonus, remember, if you're inside range 1, you're going to get 1 additional. If you're at range 3, the defender is going to roll 1 additional defense dice. Nothing new there. And then it gives you tips, and this is what I really like about the quick start. Going into suffering damage, linked actions, that's what I was talking about earlier, like doing a barrel roll into an evade. Charges, upgrade cards, and quick builds, which actually these do come with quick builds right here for this set that you can kind of fire up and have them ready to go. So we'll look at that here in a second, but I also wanted to show you all these upgrade cards before we jump into that, so you can have a better idea of what actually comes in this. So there's the first set of upgrades that comes in a set. Some of them you get 2 of, as you can see right there, and a couple of things we already talked about. Predator, of course. Here's that new charge thing, so you can spend a charge in order to do something, but you're not going to be able to recover any charges because this doesn't allow you to recover charges, unfortunately. You have to have a little up carrot to recover charges. Over here, this is kind of the new range thing, so you got to be in line of sight, or your firing arc up to 4, and it looks like it's going to do, it does 4 damage. You're going to get to roll 4 dice at the range 2 to 3 right there, so that's kind of cool, and it is missile. I think that's what that icon means, and I think that's all the important stuff here. Let's reset that for you and show you the remainder of the upgrade cards. So you're going to have our friendly R5D8 Afterburners, always a popular upgrade way back in the last edition. Servo motors, S-foils open. Before you activate, you may flip this card. And when you perform a primary attack, roll 1 fewer attack dice before you activate. You may flip this card right here. So, here is an example of a linked action. So whenever you spend, it looks like, a force token or do a force action, you can do a boost. So that's interesting. Okay, and I'm not sure if that's a red boost, but we'll check it out here in the linked action section here in a second. Oh, and last, but certainly not least, we've got the pilot cards themselves, so that you get 2 Academy pilots. Luke, everybody's favorite Jack Porkins, Red Squadron Veteran, Blue Squadron Escorts. I don't remember this guy ever being around. Iden Verso. Valdon Rudor definitely making a return. Night Beast, Black Squadron Ace, and Obsidian Squadron Pilot right there, and all have various abilities and such. Here you can see this TIE Fighter is going to come with 1 charge. Maybe that's why this guy's new. If he is indeed new, which I think he is. Now, he doesn't have any up carrots on him, so it doesn't look like it recharges. However, looky here at Luke Skywalker. He has the up carrot on his force charges right here. So he is going to be able to get back 1 force at every end step if he's not maxed out right there. So that's kind of how that mechanic appears to work according to the instruction manuals. And speaking of which, let's dive right into that. So the rule book itself seems to be pretty small compared to what we've seen in the past, and then it's kind of broken into the phases, which I kind of like. It isn't just like a whole a quick reference kind of summary like we saw in the past. It goes over playing a game, and then it goes into the kind of additional rules section here. And then there's a quick reference on the back right there. And then also actually that's it. That is all of the major stuff right there, ship assembly and stuff like that. So let's talk about suffering damage. That is on page 8. And that was just kind of the additional thing that it talked about there. So you are supposed to apparently put the shields on there because remember, it doesn't have a shield value, I don't think, on the pilot cards. Let's see. Oh, it does have one on the pilot card. So you just kind of flip them. Like here's Jack, and then you have an active shield, and then you just kind of flip it over. And then, you know, of course, you're destroyed when it's face up right there. So it's kind of a little bit different than what happened, you know, kind of in the past right there. And then critical damage, of course, you're going to have a critical damage marker, and that's where you flip the card up. And we've already showed you all of those right there. Now, linked actions are on page 10. And that's going to be right here. So that was something like what we just saw with the, what was it? The S-foil card. So some ships have linked actions linked to other actions on their ship cards. A ship can perform the linked action after it performs the action to the left of the linked action. Okay, so if you perform a focus action, you get to boost, it looks like. On this, where's boost? Let's go to boost. Ah, there it is. So boost works just the way it worked before. Forward, bank. You just put the template down and boom, there it is. Okay, so that's pretty easy. That's neat to see that they have a little bit more. Well, I like the charge system, and I like that too. So far, it gives you a little bit of flexibility and using force to kind of change your focus and stuff. Where is force in here? I don't remember seeing it in the quick start guide. But force just basically worked the same way to where you got to change. That's really weird. Did they not even have it in here? That would seem very silly to do because force charges. Where's charges? Charges. Charges are on page 12. Charges are on, oh, there it is right there. Okay. So charges are on page 12. Force capacity. When attacking, the ship can spend any number of force charges during the attack step. To change that number of its focus results to hits, while defending, a ship can spend any number of force charges during the defense step. To change that number of focus results to evade. Okay, so that makes sense. So you can onesie it if you don't happen to have a token to change all of those force or focuses to, you know, the result you want. So that's kind of cool. It gives you a little bit better of an edge with anybody that is, you know, I guess force sensitive, so to speak. So that's really neat to see. And then right here, this is what I was talking about with the barrel rolls. You have to place on the middle line of the template, aligned with the hash mark on the side of the base. So you see right here, you have to keep your, of course I don't have it punched out yet, but this is the general gist of it, is you have to keep it lined up right here, but you can slide it, you can slide this ship any way you want, up and down, but this has to stay right there, kind of is what they're saying. So that's pretty cool. A little bit of a change from before, but nothing too big right there. Upgrade cards on page 12 as well. Let's see, what do we need to talk about that? So we kind of gave you a preview on the Proton torpedo card right there, which looks to be the exact thing they're quoting. Yep, it sure is. So unlike the primary weapon, the red number and firing arc symbol on the ship card, upgrade cards with the attack header, such as Proton torpedoes, are special weapons. A ship can perform an attack with a special weapon instead of using its primary weapon. So here's your arc, which is normal. Attack value 4, range bonus indicator, range requirements. Range bonus indicator, if there is a missile system present, range bonuses are not applied while attacking with this weapon. Okay, so you don't get an additional if you're at range 1 if this icon is on here. Range requirements, the attack range must be one of the ranges listed for the weapon to be used. That makes sense. Number of attack dice to roll, arc requirement. This is all very, very sensible stuff right here. If there's a symbol in parentheses in the header, that symbol indicates an additional attack requirement. This means that the attacking ship needs to have perform that action. For example, a focus symbol means the attacker needs a focus token, while a target lock symbol means the attacker needs to have a lock on the defender. And here's the Proton torpedo, so you can see where there is an attack requirement And it also requires you to spend 1 charge. Now this card's going to come with 2 charges, but it's not going to be able to recover any because it doesn't have the recovery icon apparently. However, there is a second line of text here that says change 1 hit result to a critical result. So I don't know if that kind of applies after you roll your 4 attack dice right there. Not exactly sure of the order of operations, but I'm sure that will all get sorted out once I actually play with this game, or somebody probably has already seen a demo game. So drop it in the comments exactly how that works, but that just gives you a better idea of all of that right there. And we talked about charges. They're just basically a little bit of ammo, so to speak, I guess you could say, for different things. Sometimes there's charges on ships along with force charges on ships as well, and they only recover if they have the little caret above them, and you get 1 back at the, during the end phase, you would get 1 back right there. So quick builds, that's the last thing they go over in the quick reference, and that is going to be on page 15. So something a little bit different from what we've seen in the past with FFG. There are no points printed on these cards because you just download the Army Builder app, or the X-Wing Squad Builder, excuse me, from FFG site, and then you get to play. Normal squad point games are going to be a squad point limit of 200 now, whereas the quick builds and stuff play with something called a threat level, and that's going to be at threat level 8. So it's kind of like similar to power levels in Warhammer 40k, and those cards are actually included here, but they also probably have some in the app as well that you can download. So if you want to just kind of play a couple of quick builds for demos, you can use these right here and just kind of go to town and not have to worry about not being balanced and things like that. So that is the majority of things to talk about in here. We are going to download this into our brain and play a few more games and come back and give you our opinion on the game mechanics, the game flow itself, but it was just a little too much to all do in one day for us. But just getting through the rule book, and I'm sure there's a lot more stuff in here too about everything else under the sun that isn't covered in the quick start and the pages they tell you to go into here. But we're not going to necessarily get into that, but look for way more on that as we break down the rule book and go over all of the conversion kits and all that stuff here in the future leading up to Gen Con, and of course the general release of X-Wing 2.0. So far I'm pretty thrilled. It doesn't look like there's been super major changes, except for the fact that there is enough that you need to buy all the new upgrade kits and things like that. So it's a little bit of a kick in the pants monetarily, but the game has been around for a number of years and has suffered from its share of bloat. But now we're wiping the slate clean. We're moving forward. Who's coming with us? It's X-Wing 2.0, and it doesn't suck.